I talk a lot about auto-regulation, and they feel like they need to learn how to be able to auto-regulate within a year of training. And it's not gonna happen, man. It takes 6-7 years. It takes a long time to know, I can't do this movement today, I need to do this one. Right. But I think the wise ones are the ones that understand that they hit that genetic ceiling, I guess you would say, but also understand that that doesn't necessarily mean you can't get
the fuck up. Simon says, get the fuck up. Throw your hands in the sky.
How have you changed your diet as you have gotten older?
Diet and training?
Yeah, diet and training. Let's just go with diet.
Let's go with diet.
Big one.
Yeah. I would say early on, I was much more of a low fat, low carb, low fat, high protein dieter. And now I would say I'm more of a, I guess I would still, most people would consider me low carb. I would define that more as low net carb. Net carbs being, take out the fiber grams. And more of a higher fat. Like, I'm not deathly afraid of fats, provided that they're the right kinds. Mm-hmm. And then protein, I would say, is probably more of a moderate to maybe even lower approach based on maybe what the norm would be.
Is that because the carbs are being used for energy and you don't need to take the
fat
protein?
I would say the fats are being used more for energy. I tend to be more efficient burner of fat, I think, mm-hmm. than even of carbs. And, you know, I'm thinking back to the 90s when I was getting into bodybuilding, you know, people like, I don't know if it was true, but you heard like Mike Francois was eating like 600 grams of protein a mm-hmm. day. And so I thought that, well, you have to eat like crazy amounts of protein, like 2 grams per pound or more. Mm-hmm. And I think that's gradually, that number's gradually dropped for me over mm-hmm. time to where now I almost think even 1 gram per pound mm-hmm. is plenty, provided it's quality protein and you're timing it based on your training. Mm-hmm. You know, I try to pack in the faster acting carbs and protein around the training window, mm-hmm. where if you asked me in my 20s, would you take carbs during, like, before your workout, I'd be like, no, blasphemy. Like, you're not gonna burn fat and mm-hmm. get that benefit if you're taking in carbs. But now I'll drink plasma, which has carbs and protein, and I do that right up to a contest. And obviously I'm able to get lean. So.
Do you count those numbers when you're structuring your diet? Do you count the intra numbers as part of your total for the day?
I do.
Okay. Because some don't. That's why I asked.
Okay.
They just kind of count it as.
I mean, like, I count everything.
Okay.
I even count every gram of carbs, even if it's fiber.
Okay.
You know, and I think if I told you what I dieted on, most people like would think I'm lying, just because, I mean, I'll get down to 1,800 calories, mm-hmm. and I'm still doing 60 to 90 minute training session a day, and maybe some HIIT cardio, or an hour of hot yoga, which could burn literally probably mm-hmm. 400 calories because I sweat so much. And
I think
I don't know if people, like, honestly, I don't know if other bodybuilders are full of shit and they lie, or what, because I hear of, you know, guys dieting on 4,000 calories, and they, you know, I mean, maybe they don't come in peeled, but they come mm-hmm. in lean, and I'm just like, how is that possible? You know, like, I'm either super efficient with what I consume, or they lie. I don't know which. You know.
See, I kind of listen when you said that. I took it the other way when you said people were going to be shocked because you're at 1,800, and I thought you were going to throw a number out like 1,200, because I know people, and they're not bodybuilders obviously, but I know people who are, you know, 250 pounds starting their diets at 2,000 calories. And I'm thinking, why would you do that? You know?
Yeah, well, that's the first thing came to mind. Why would you start
come down, you know, over a period of time? So 18 really isn't that surprising to me.
Okay.
But it could be for some, but for two different reasons.
Yeah.
There could be a lot of people out there thinking, wow, I really need to start my diet at higher calories.
Yeah.
Because they may be starting at something stupid like 2,200.
Yeah, I mean,
You know,
2,200. If you're 250, that's, to me, that's insane. I mean,
Yeah.
you'll shut your metabolism down.
Yeah.
Pretty readily doing that for very long. But
So over a period of time, would you say that the total number of calories has gone down?
if I showed you a picture in my 20s and now, I didn't track it that closely, I guess, back in my 20s. But if you looked at a picture of me in my 20s and now, yeah, my calories have come down because you wouldn't recognize me because I was,
You're bigger.
Eat big to get big.
Yeah, you're way bigger. So let's make a fair comparison. At the same body weight then and now, would the calories be about the same? Because now it would, back then you probably would have been 10 weeks dieting into a show to be where you are now, right?
Yeah.
If you really got way up there.
Yeah.
Those calories, would they be close to what they are now?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. So the overall calorie hasn't really changed. You just kept your weight lower over a period of time.
Yeah.
But the macro layout has shifted.
Yep.
Okay. Now we can get into how has your training changed? And you guys,
The assumption here is that I'm old.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Well,
I'm almost offended by that.
Yeah. Well, how many years have you been training?
Oh man.
Because your training age it's over 20, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just turned 42 and I got my first plastic weight set when I was 13.
Okay, so there's a large training age. So let's do this. Let's make it easy because we can speak for 2 hours on how different methods of training.
Yeah.
Let's take three main. Let's take from when you were first, not the beginner garage plastic weight phase.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
I don't
skip
even
that.
remember
All right.
what I was doing then.
Then let's get into when you first started competing, how you were training there, and then go to the hit phase, and then go to how you're training now.
Sure.
So just those three.
Yeah, I mean, when I first got into training, it really was the hit phase, if you will, because the first bodybuilding contest I went to, the first guest poser that was there, which I didn't know who he was Dorian Yates. Mm-hmm. And, he blew my mind. I started reading his books and whatnot and started following that training philosophy. I would say my cousin was married to a bodybuilder. We went to watch him compete. That's how I saw Dorian. Mm-hmm. So he had some influence on me. He gave me all the Perillo stuff, the nutrition manuals and
MCT oil.
Yep.
Whole plate of broccoli.
Yeah. Yeah, tons of broccoli and a bunch of MCT oil. And so, but by and large, I would say Dorian's approach influenced me the most. 1 to 2 training sets after some warm-ups, tops per exercise. My workouts were super brief, less than an hour, heavy weight, go to failure, go beyond failure. And I didn't need 5 sets to warm up my knees because I was in my 20s, you can just come in, load the bar and go pretty much, even though I'm paying for that today. But I trained the hit Dorian philosophy all the way through my 20s into my early 30s. When I turned pro in 2004, I was basically training that way. Probably within 2 years of turning pro, I was wrapping my elbows, my wrists, my knees. I'd wrap my shoulders if I could have. I just didn't know how to. I was basically wrapping everything, and everything hurt. And I finally was like, I'm 32. Like, what the hell? How am I gonna? I'm gonna be done in another couple of years. And so I just threw all the wraps away and said, I'm gonna start lifting weights that just doesn't hurt. And I still didn't change the philosophy a whole lot. And I would say, I dabbled around with other things, German volume training, Dante's dog crap, very brief stint with that. I just didn't feel like it fit for for my body and what I was used to. And late 30s, I literally felt like my physique was going backwards, to be honest. And I met John Meadows. Well, I started reading his stuff and then met him here and started working with him. And he definitely extended my career, revolutionized my physique. I mean, I felt like I actually improved again. And the volume obviously went way up compared to HIIT. The intensity is still there in a way. It's just more intelligent, I would say, and a safer way of going about it. So, I never trained more than 4 days a week up until I started working with John, and now I train 6 to 7 days a week. And I feel like I recover better. Every day before was go hard, go to failure. If it hurts, suck it up, push through it. And now obviously there's primary workouts that have more of those intensity techniques and some things taken to failure. But the other half of the workouts are secondary workouts where you're just training for a pump and recovery. And I feel like those have actually, secondary implies that they're secondary in importance.
Yes.
But to me, I would actually say that they're almost primary importance.
For the recovery.
Because the recovery ability is just amazing. And so I'm training more often, and in some ways just as intense as I did in my younger years, but it's more effective. I recover better, my joints feel better, and I don't lift as heavy, obviously. And my lower back is jacked up, and there's not a whole lot I can do about that, so I just work around it.
Yeah. How long would you say that's been an issue?
My low back?
Yeah.
I went like ass to the grass with 700 pounds, probably, could have been 10 years ago almost. And 2 guys on both sides, and one guy panicked because I went so deep and grabbed the bar, and I came up crooked. And it's just been a slow progression downhill since then, to the point I can't even squat anymore.
Okay. So one of the things I was going to segue into out of that, but you kind of already answered, is if you were to go back and train using, I just say a HIIT style because there's different philosophies of training and there's branches that fall underneath them.
Sure.
And that's kind of what I would put Dorian under there, and Mensur and Dart, and all those kind of all fall under the same branch, even though they're all still different. If you were to go back and do that again, what would you do different?
I mean, honestly, the way I look at it is when you start training, you can train dumb, you can train intelligently, but you got this genetic limit, and it's almost like no matter how you do it, you're gonna hit that. Maybe it's 5 years, 7 years. I mean, it depends if drugs, I guess, are involved or not, but you're gonna hit that limit. And once you hit that limit, I don't feel like there's a whole lot you can do to change that.
Yeah.
So the question is those 5, 7, 10 years, whatever it is to hit that limit, you can either train intelligently, and then when you hit that limit, you can train there for another 20 years maybe. But if you train stupid and you hit that limit in 5 to 7 years, you may only have 5 to 7 years left. And so, if I could go back, honestly, it's impossible to know. It's sort of a what if question. But I think, John probably didn't have his philosophies formulated that far back.
No.
But if I could have gone back and done the mountain dog type training, I think I would have sidestepped a lot of the injuries and overuse stuff that I've got.
Would the secondary sessions being put in with that type of training help?
With HIIT?
With HIIT. So you got the HIIT, then the secondary would come in for the recovery? I mean, there's no way to answer it because you haven't done it.
Right. I would almost be inclined to say yeah.
Okay.
So provided that the secondary was really light, you know, really focused on explosive type work. It may help, but I was just such a knucklehead, and those 4 hit sessions.
Yeah.
I just grinded.
Yeah.
You know.
I think everybody goes through the knucklehead phase. I mean, I think that's part of the process because you don't learn what not to do until you do it.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, that's part of the.
Yeah, I mean, people
process.
give you wisdom, and most of the time, no one listens
They don't.
because they have to go learn it their own way,
Yeah.
and it's usually the hard way.
Yeah, I've explained it a lot of the times that, you know, when I was in my 20s, there was always, I'd be sitting at a table with somebody who was in their 50s giving me all this advice that now I see was all true.
Yeah.
But at the time, I'm thinking to myself, what do you lift, man? You're old, you're beat up, you know. Right. And now I'm that guy. You know what I'm saying? And I know the person sitting across from me is not listening. Yeah. You know, so if there's any takeaway, you know, it's successful to me, even if it's just one small thing. Yeah. Because it's hard to get through because they're so passionate. And I think that you hit on a concept that I agree with, that there is a ceiling. There definitely is a ceiling, and it's debatable, and I understand people can debate this all day long. You know, even with drugs, it's just going to move the ceiling a little bit higher, but there's still a genetic ceiling. And I think the realization of knowing if you've hit it or not is very a hard thing to realize. And sometimes that takes other people to be able to help analyze or whatever it is. But when you hit that, and by the way, guys, this doesn't happen in 2 or 3 years. Because I have people, I talk a lot about auto-regulation, and they feel like they need to learn how to be able to auto-regulate within a year of training. And it's not gonna happen, man. It takes 6, 7 years. It takes a long time to know I can't do this movement today, I need to do this one. Right. But I think the wise ones are the ones that understand that they hit that genetic ceiling, I guess you would say, but also understand that that doesn't necessarily mean you can't get better. Exactly. Because from a power lifter standpoint, very rarely do they ever put all 3 of their best lifts together on the same day. You know, very, very rarely does a pro bodybuilder show up in their all-time best condition. And then even if they do, it could still be a little bit better because something else was off. So it really becomes a matter of, and what I really suck at doing myself, is how can you stay the healthiest, the longest, to be able to actually take that genetic ceiling and maximize what it really is. Right. Because just by us just saying it isn't saying you can't get better. Right. It's saying that your ability is tapped. Now you need to make it work. Right. You know, it's like having a football team and you have all, you know, Pro Bowl players. So you can't get any better than what they are. But now you need to make them all work together. Right. All right. And that's not always the easiest thing in the world to do. Yeah. So there's still a lot of learning. It's not like there's no hope you can't get better. You can get so much better. Yeah. When you get the players to play together. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to discourage somebody that you got 5-7 years and then it's out to pasture for you. You hit your limit. Because, like I said, 37 or whatever, when I met John, I felt like I had hit that ceiling and I was backsliding. And he turned that around. And you just have to find new ways. You have to be smarter about things. Yes. And if you can't figure it out on your own, then you pay someone that you can gain some insight and wisdom from, which worked well for me with John. So.